Assalamualaikum and very good morning to all of you. Uh, Today we are going to discuss on topic number two, which is regarding the internal combustion engine. So this is the outline of this topic, which is consists of the difference, the contrast of internal combustion engine, which is we're going to compare with the external combustion engine, the engine structure, combustion cycle, which is mainly on a four-stroke versus two-stroke engine, and explanation on this to different stroke engine. We're going to cover also the ignition system, advantage and disadvantage of this um, combustion engine. Alright, as the LO, you should be able to understand the principle of the internal combustion engine, know the difference between petrol, or we call it gasoline, which is standard name, sorry, the standard name, and also the difference between gasoline and diesel engine. And lastly, ability to identify some basic engine components and the function of it. Alright, first of all, I would like to cover what is the combustion. So, in modern mechanical engine, um, internal combustion engine requires the burn of the fuel, which is conversion of the heat, conversion of the heat from the fuel into mechanical energy. And when we say internal, of course, it's going to occur inside of the engine. And almost all the modern tractors equip with this type of combustion. And internal combustion engine also occur external. Um, Meanwhile, for the external combustion engine, is occur outside of the steam engine For example, the old engine, which is steam engine. All right. Next is if we do some analogy. If you put a firecracker inside a can, and then if you follow this direction and try to uh, light it up, and then you find that the can is actually flying away into the air, and then one of the procedure you retrieve, and if you basically repeating the internal combustion engine. So in this case, the fuel is will be the firecrackers, and when you pat down the soil around the can, is actually you going to conserve the pressure. So this is the same thing happen in the mechanical engine system, which is internal combustion platform. And next question is what caused the can to fly upwards is because of the combustion force of upward force that from the combustion. And what happened to fly when you have a can fly up? So basically you run away. Is supposed to be a joke anyway. All right. There are four main processes involved in the internal combustion engine. First of all, intake engine system um, pengambilan, and the second is compression, uh, lejang mampatan, and then the third one is lejang power stroke, lejang kuasa, and lastly is exhaust stroke, which is lejang exhaust. So all these four processes is the main process that happen in the internal combustion engine. Before that, I would like to cover a little bit on the engine structure. So I hope you are familiar with this engine structure. So I anticipate you um, to read on this. Some of the video also posted online on the YouTube. But the main thing here is on the spark plug. If you operate on the spark plug engine, so this the gasoline engine, so normally you will find the spark plug. But on the diesel engine, you don't have the spark plug. So that's only the main difference between two types of the internal combustion engine. And the other important thing is the piston and connecting rod, so which is deliver from linear motion of the power to rotation motion, which is able to transfer the power to the wheel. Right, this is part of the engine system, diesel engine system. So they are a big different in terms of the components. So here you have the injector, which is compress the air, and then the combustion chamber, and injector will blast the fuel that find molecules to help for the combustion. So please go ahead and check the components on the video. Alright, this is a bit more on overview of the components. Again, this is more of schematic, beautiful photo. Then from here you can see the components of the internal components of the engines. And this is very common for mechanical engine that you can find tractor. Alright, here I would like to skip this because this components I think you are going to read by yourself and pretty much step forward. Alright, so I move on the operating cycle of the stroke. So we call it, in bahasa we call it lejang pengambilan, lejang mampatan, lejang kuasa, and lejang exhaust. So there are four main stroke involved in one power unit of one power production of the engine. First of all, you can see that on this is not diesel, this is gasoline. We have spark plug here. So when we have an intake stroke, so one of the valve, which is for the fuel, will open, and then basically the piston will create a suction motion, and then the fuel will compress after the half cycle of the rotation from the fuel, and then compression happen when both valves are closed, and then when there is enough pressure, and then there is a timer that set for the spark plug to inject the current and ignite the fuel, and then from the fuel it happen for the combustion, and because of the no way out for the gas and also the pressure, so it's going to push the piston downward and then do another half rotation and deliver the power for the engine. And then at the end of the process we have the exhaust, where the second valve will be open to allow all the gas out go out from the chamber, and then we repeat again from the first, which is for the intake. All right, so all these written up here is the one that actually already explained, so please go ahead and take a look or the detail. But here I would like you to see the process rotation, then I will go with the slides. Alright, so the main components of the combustion for gasoline engine, two revolutions are needed in order to complete one cycle or one power unit, one unit of power production. And then other than that, you need to know that when the valve is open and when the valve is closed by how many types of rotation. So that's only the main parameters that you need to understand. Others pretty much the same as mechanical operation. Alright, so I'm not going to cover this. Alright, so on diesel engine is slightly different because of the different nature of the fuel itself. So we need to have a very such amount of pressure that going to develop inside the compression chamber in a during the combustion process. By this approach, so you will be able to have a combustion rather than with the help of spark plug. Diesel fuel is very difficult to light it up, so that you require very high pressure from the air, and then with the help of the compressed air, so you should be able to do some ignition. So okay, this is the schematic diagram of the diesel engine. So again, I would like you to go there, and this is the basically the position where we call it top. TDC stand for top dead center, and then BDC bottom dead center. This is where the volume of the volume of the engine will be calculated. For example, if you have 2000 cc for the engine for the car, so how they calculate, basically the cylinder volume times height of these two. So that's how we measure that. Same for the tractor and also other mechanical engine. Alright, so this is for the diesel engine. So since we don't have spark plug, so what the first intake is the air, purely air, no gas, no fuel yet, right, at this time. And then the same process going to have a half rotation, and then to compress, and then when it compress, the air become hot, and then when it's hot, the spray from the ejector for the fuel will make the fuel burn, and then from burning we push the cylinder downward, and then at the end the valve will be open to allow for the exit gas. So this is about the fuel of diesel fuel. So this is why sometimes you will hear some of the um, burning, ununiform burning of the diesel engine, and some of the loud engine. So because of this, the nature of the fuel itself is very difficult to ignite. So this is for example, this is a nipple of the nozzles and the spray, very fine molecules, but um, the ignition, the combustion of this each particle is consistent and scattered across the volume of the across the area inside the chamber. That's why you have a very loud noise of the diesel engine rather than gasoline. Right. Another engine that we would like to cover is two-stroke engine. Normally, it's a light application. So the most common, if you have motorbike, Yamaha 125Z, it's most popular for youngster. So this is one of the example. Um, we need we need to understand some of the principle of two-stroke engine. Why do we need to know about this? And normally for this two-stroke engine, they are only require two stroke to produce one unit of power, which is combination for first stroke combination of intake and compression occur at the same time, and second stroke is power and exhaust occur at the same time. So a bit different with the four-stroke engine. Two-stroke engine require no valve, but there is a port for the intake, and the crankshaft will be for the mixture of the air and the fuel, and carburetor for mixing air and the fuel for to regulate the fuel consumption. Okay, in terms of the usage, so normally you can find in the lighter mechanical machine, for example, grass cutter, outboard engine, chainsaw, and etc. And normally is very light engine made of alloy, and like I said, no valve, but a hole or port will be used instead of valve. Right. So this is the detail of the compression and power stroke and the intake and exhaust stroke of the two-stroke engine. You have compression and intake occur at the same time, and then a power stroke. At this time, you produce by only one revolution produce one power unit, so very fast rather than two revolution full cycle two revolution for the gasoline engine or um, diesel engine, which is occur on a four-stroke engine. Right, this is the detail, so please take a look on the two-stroke engine. Okay. Alright, when we comparing the two-stroke and four-stroke engine, a few comparison that we need to mention here. Okay, some of the engine also on the two-stroke required light duty lubricating oil, which is you're going to mix with the gasoline engine to help to cool it off from the high heat, because it's actually a very small engine, so they require some of the internal lubrication. Alright, but this is the example of the graph of a four-stroke engine. So what happened here is when they suction, there is the the reading is below zero because of the vacuum for the intake, and then during compression, pressure will develop, and then when this burning, maximum power will develop, and then when the valve opens, so you have the low pressure and exhaust gas. So basically it's about 360, and times 2 you have about 2 cycles. Okay, and if you have four two-stroke engine, so basically compression and intake occur at the same time, so you have only up to 360 processes. Alright, this is the main differences. So maybe you want to take a look on this subject and try yourself, and some of the answer will be posted later on. Alright, some of the questions: why does two-stroke engine have a lot of smoke? So this is about of the combustion, because of the mixing of the intake and also compression occur at the same time. And when there is exhaust also occur at the same with the compression, so that's make um, power and exhaust. So that's what makes the incomplete combustion. So next is what move the piston in the downward power stroke. So this is a downward force, linear downward force. And what move the piston in intake, compression, um, and exhaust stroke. So I hope you have some general idea on this. During intake, so which is a counterweight, compression is also counterweight, and exhaust stroke in a, is also exhaust stroke, in also counterweight. But during the power stroke, it's only from the combustion. Okay, next, can we swap different fuel into different engine systems? So absolutely, the answer is no. And how many evolution required to get one engine stroke in two-stroke engine? So the answer will be 1 and 2 revolution for both respectively. Alright, so you might want to try to answer this name of some of the engine type for simple operation. Alright, so with